Uh, my most recent video was about the claim that Isaiah prophesied that a virgin would be born. But in that video, I didn't really get into the sign itself or when the sign would occur and what it would be a sign of. It was obvious from some comments I received that I probably need to do that. You can read the story in Isaiah 7 1 through 16. I want to tell it here in as simple a way as I possibly can, with as few details as possible, but expressing what I believe was going on in this passage. And if nothing else, you might get a laugh or two from my rendition. Sweet Polly Purebred, i.e., King Ahaz, was in trouble. Dastardly villains were after Ahaz, wanting to take away his land and his kingship. So he was a damsel in distress and shaken like a leaf. Whatever was he to do? He needed a hero to come and save the day. As fate would have it, from the sky came a comforting voice. "I'll save you, sweet Ahaz purebred," it called. "There's no need to fear. Under God is here." Under God came down and swept sweet Ahaz into his arms. "I'll take care of those mean old meanies," Under God cooed. "You just pay attention. Oh, and I'm going to give you and all of Judah a sign that I'll actually do it too. Here's what's going to happen. And when you see this sign, you'll know I'm going to fix your problem. A young woman is going to have a baby. Before her child even knows good and evil, those villainous villains will be gone, and you and your kingdom will be safe." Well, that sounded good to sweet Ahaz purebred, so he waited for the sign. The baby was born as predicted, and the kings were defeated. All was right in the house of David. That's the story. But it's not the story some Christians want to tell. In their mind, the sign never happened. Sweet Ahaz waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. No sign ever came, and Ahaz eventually died. 700 years later, Under God remembered his promise to sweet Ahaz. He impregnated a young woman himself. Her child was about to get old enough to know good and evil. So Under God decided it was time to defeat those kings that had bothered sweet Ahaz 700 years earlier. But alas, the kings were already dead. They had been defeated 700 years earlier without a sign at all. Under God, one would think, felt stupid. He had failed to give sweet Ahaz the sign. Do y'all see how ridiculous that is? Some Christians, as I said, believe that this is the story of Ahaz. They think Yahweh promised a sign that the kings would be defeated, went ahead and defeated the kings, but didn't give the sign that they would be defeated for 700 more years when Jesus was born, long after both Ahaz and the kings were long dead. This thinking blows my mind. First of all, I thought all intelligent people truly interested in the Bible knew that Isaiah was prophesying about a sign for Ahaz and Judah at the time when Ahaz was living. It's what the story says, after all. And never mind about the virgin part. Let the woman be a virgin for all I care. The story still means that something was to happen in Ahaz's time to show him that Yahweh was going to fix his problem. The baby that was to be born was to be assigned to Ahaz and all of Judah, that the two kings would be defeated and Judah would have peace. Ahaz received no sign at all if these Christians are right about this. That would mean, of course, that Yahweh lied to Ahaz. Now, some people claim that this was indeed a prophecy to Ahaz and Judah for their time, but there was a double fulfillment later. As I suggested in my previous video, the Bible nowhere talks about double fulfillments. This is something Christians made up. Fixed prophecies they need to apply to the time of Jesus and the apostles. If indeed this was to be fulfilled twice, and the woman was indeed a virgin, who was the virgin who gave birth in Isaiah's day? As I mentioned previously, Christians want a double prophecy or a double fulfillment, but not two virgins. They can't have it both ways. Furthermore, if a second fulfillment was to occur, what was to happen before Jesus discerned good and evil? Something had to happen. Did two more kings get defeated? Did two more lands become wasted? Back to the sign for Ahaz and Judah in Isaiah's time. Y'all, a sign is something that happens. to let us know that something else is going to happen in the future after the sign. The event doesn't happen in the present, and then the sign comes in the future, long after the event. That makes no sense at all. So, to those who believe Jesus is the only fulfillment of the prophecy, how did Ahaz get a sign at all? He was dead when Jesus was born and learned to discern good and evil or eat butter and honey. Imagine it's Revolutionary War time. Somebody tells you they'll put lights in the window letting you know when and how the British are coming. One if by land, the person says, two if by sea. Well, the British come. They take over because you never got the sign. And they rule for 700 years. Then someone puts two lights in the window to let you know the British came 700 years ago by water. What sense does that make? What good does the sign do at that point? Can't even be called a sign. The birth of Jesus couldn't possibly be a sign to Ahaz and Judah that the two kings threatening them in Isaiah's time were going to be stopped from attacking Judah and setting up a king in their land. That simply is not possible. Please tell me I'm not the confused one here. If I am, I might as well turn over my finances to my children and let them make all my decisions because I've lost my ever-loving mind. Let's read the story in an easy-to-understand translation. Bible and Basic English. I'll read only the pertinent parts to make it shorter. Again, this is Isaiah 7, 1 through 16. Now it came about in the days of Ahaz, king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Aram, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to make war against it, but were not able to overcome it. So Aram and Israel are planning to attack Jerusalem. That seems clear. Verse 2, and word came to the family of David that Aram had put up its tents in Ephraim. And the king's heart and the hearts of his people were moved, like the trees of the wood shaken in the wind. Then the Lord said to Isaiah, go out now, and you will come across Ahaz at the end of the stream, and say to him, have no fear. Do not let your heart be feeble because of these two ends of smoke and firewood. Because Aram has made evil designs against you, saying, let us go up against Judah, troubling her, and forcing our way into her. And let us put up a king in her, even the son of Tabeel. This is the word of the Lord God. This design will not come about or be effective. And now paraphrasing verse 8, those other kings will be broken. Verse 10, and Isaiah said again to Ahaz, make a request to the Lord your God for a sign. Now what you always saying here? These two kings won't take Judah in Ahaz's time. That's what it says, and there will be a sign to show this to Ahaz. But Ahaz said, I will not put the Lord to the test by making such a request. Well, Isaiah said, the Lord himself will give you a sign. A young woman is now with child, and she will give birth to a son, and she will give him the name Emmanuel. Whom would Yahweh give a sign? Ahaz, right? No denying that, y'all. Ahaz had to be alive when the sign came, because the sign was for him. Some people say this is in the present tense, this verse, as this version here states. We won't get into that. In my opinion, it doesn't matter. We can understand what's happening here, I do believe, no matter what. Verse 15, butter and honey will be his food. This is the child, when he is old enough to make a decision between evil and good. And now here's the actual sign. For before the child is old enough to make a decision between evil and good, the land whose two kings you are now fearing will have become waste. So, Ahaz is afraid of these two kings. A woman will give birth while the child is still young. The land of these two kings who are bothering Judah will be laid waste. That's the story. Now tell me, y'all, what is it saying? Is it saying that a young woman or virgin, I don't care, will have a child, and before the child is old enough to do good or evil, the two kings' lands will be waste? Or is it saying that 700 years from now, before some child learns good and evil, those two kings' lands will be waste? If this doesn't mean what it obviously says, the whole story seems pointless to me. If Yahweh was just saying, don't worry, Ahaz, someday in the sweet by and by, those lands will be destroyed. Nothing will happen for 700 years. Then I'll give you a sign that those two kings bothering you won't be a problem to you anymore. You won't really see the sign, though, because you'll be dead. What comfort was that to Ahaz? Why would he stop fearing and stop shaking like a leaf? Because 700 years later, those kings would be gone. He'd be gone too. If I tell you that before a purple people eater shows up at your door, your house will sell. And you live and die, and then 700 years later, a purple people eater shows up the door of the same house. What kind of sign did I give you? I gave you no sign at all. This is simple logic, right? Or have I, in my old age, completely lost my mind? Jesus has neither part nor lot in this. It's a story about Ahaz and the sign Yahweh was giving him to let him know he would defeat the two kings and leave Ahaz in peace. That's it. That's all there is. There ain't no more. But hey, if I'm the one completely out of touch with reality here, would some non Christian who doesn't just need this to be about Jesus, please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you all. Bye.